Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. The topic is going to be Titan and the legal industry. So we're going to be looking at a number of different solutions built out by our dear friend, Brett Sullivan, a member at the Lucent Law firm based out of Washington. Brett, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. How are you?
Great. Nice to speak with you today. Very excited to begin and discuss a little bit about what you've done with Titan and how you've done that also with Salesforce. So yeah, just a little bit of an introduction. My name is Ben Miller. I am an account executive here at Titan. I'm sure I've spoken with many of you in the past, with the team for around 2 years at this point, and always looking to showcase what our customers have been able to do with the platform in conjunction with Salesforce. And Brett is someone who we've really enjoyed working with over the past couple of years now, several years already. And he's someone who's really been able with his team to push the boundaries of what Titan can be used for and how it can improve internal processes, along with a lot of other things at his law firm. So without further ado, Brett, I'd like you to maybe just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what your firm does, and then we'll take it from there.
Sure, happy to do that. So I'm a lawyer in Spokane, Washington, and I've been practicing law since about 1994, primarily estate planning, real estate, business, and probate. Small firm, just two partners here. I've got staff. And my partner and I are probably, I guess we're most likely either on the leading or the bleeding edge of technology and bringing technology into our firm, especially at the size we are. We've been using Salesforce now for about 7 years, 6-7 years. I've been looking around for various solutions to help us extend Salesforce and really customize it for our particular use cases. And then we stumbled upon, and my partner found Titan back kind of, I think in the early days, and I think probably back in 2019 is my guess, 2020. And so we've just been, really enjoyed working with Titan so far. And I've been, I think, kind of growing with them as they've been upgrading and launching new features, new applications, and we've been taking advantage of those. We thought we were staying up to speed with all the new features they brought out. I think we've fallen behind on a couple, but we are drilling in my firm on some, really particular use cases, and we've been doing a fair amount of development work internally to really bring the power of Salesforce and the power of Titan, bring those forward.
Thanks a lot, Brett. Well, we're very excited to see, some of these things that you've built out today. I personally have not seen most of the stuff that you're going to be showing, so it's really exciting for me as someone who, is usually talking with the customers before they build things and before they really optimize, before they implement, to see what you've done. So I'm excited for that as well. Just a little bit about Titan for anyone who's listening or watching that maybe isn't so familiar with us. So Titan is a digital experience platform for Salesforce. What this means is that we have a platform that sits on top of Salesforce, and it has a number of different products that allow you to integrate external processes with your internal Salesforce instance. So, this could be forms, it could be documents, it could be e-sign, it could be a full-on portal for your external users, whether they be partners or vendors or customers, giving them a way to interact with the data. And that's really what we're looking to do here at Titan, is extend the internal system, which is Salesforce, out to whoever needs to interact with it. And I think that, based on what Brett and I have discussed prior to this webinar, today's going to be a really good example of ways that you can do that kind of across an organization. So just a quick agenda for today. First, we're going to start off with Brett's going to give us a little bit more of an insight as to how Salesforce is used in his industry, in the legal industry, how maybe they got to Salesforce a little bit, which he just mentioned how they got to Titan, but a little bit of the background of how they arrived to Salesforce and what they were interested in using it for initially, and then where that grew to today. And then we're going to start looking at where Titan comes in. So the first thing is lead generation. So Brett's going to be able to show us some lead generation methods that they have enabled in their website. As well as other places, client intake and onboarding. So, this is something we talk about all the time with our customers, which is hey, how can we make client intake and onboarding easier? There's a lot of forms to be filled out. There's a lot of documents that need to be, transferred between, transfer ownership between the client or the customer and the business. How do we make that easy? How do we make those review processes work well, internally and externally? Online client qualification and payments. This is then, just farther down that client journey. What happens after they're onboarded and we've done an intake on a client? How do we now qualify them and collect payment from them when the time is right? And then also, Brett's got some document generation and, that he's been doing in Salesforce with Titan. And I understand that he also has some future plans, I'm sure, and I'd love to hear about those as well. And then, of course, we'll have some time for question and answer. So, yeah, Brett, if you could just, maybe take it away. I'd love
Yeah.
to just get started, hear a little bit about, what you're doing with, how you got to Salesforce initially, and just a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. Happy to do that. So, as indicated earlier, my partner, Spencer Stromberg, and I have always been focused on, making sure that we're staying at the top of the technology game for small law firms. Both have sort of a deep, appreciation for how technology can help us do more with less. And be able to use our resources better. So we bounced around. Before we found Salesforce, we bounced around between several different, cloud-based platforms. We tried out Rocket Matter, we tried out Clio, we tried out a couple other basically client matter management platforms. Nothing really seemed to gel with us. And then we came across Salesforce, and we're using basically buying a license from another company called Avalogics that basically customizes, or at least comes out with a mostly customized solution for law firms. They the default license we get along with some custom objects are kind of more designed for larger firms and corporate law departments. Of course, that's not really us. We're a small firm dealing with, fairly high volume of matters, but also, not with, large corporate clients and those kind of things. So we went in and, really started fiddling around, just probably like lots of small businesses, started kind of tinkering behind the scenes with Salesforce. We do use an outside developer, but a lot of the work we've done basically internally, done it ourselves, in terms of both further customizing the default objects that we got in Salesforce with our license, but also in creating new objects, really to fit our unique use cases. We're a firm believer that every piece of data that we gather or collect or need to interact with with regard to a client, that needs to be in Salesforce, and that's exactly what it's there for. For us, it's not really about selling. It's about making sure that we're tracking every bit of data we possibly can with clients. We then, and after we were using Salesforce, we really wanted to bring on a document automation piece to it. And so we played around with Conga documents for a while, and just felt the Conga was more than we needed, more complex than we needed. And then, I think, Ben, that Spencer was just out, on the internet looking for other solutions and came across Titan. And then we said, well, that looks like that could be a really good fit. Got started with you guys. And then, really began to extend what we're doing to Salesforce. I think one challenge for us as a small firm is, getting our staff up to speed with how to interact with Salesforce. They're at that point now, but with Titan, we felt, for instance, developing, internal forms and internal, application for our staff has been very helpful. It's been, a big push for us to use with Titan in order just to make that process of getting client data and working with client data, make that much easier and faster and less time consuming, and while we're working in Salesforce. And then, of course, we've been basically, we started off with with Titan Forms. That was really, I think, the only solution, Ben, if I remember right,
That's correct.
back in 2019-20. And then along came Titan Web. And we jumped into the, I think, into the beta version of that right away. We saw the advantages really clearly, much faster, easier canvas and way to build out the applications we want to use. So we're exclusively using web at this point in time. We've integrated that now as Lightning Web Components and some of our objects in Salesforce. But we are, an absolute convert and believer in in using Salesforce, recognizing some limitations it has and trying not to sort of overdo it with our use cases. But we also feel that very strongly that Titan needs to be a big part of how we work with Salesforce, both on a daily basis with staff, but also in how we interact with leads. In how we, in basically moving leads from a potential client, from a lead to a potential client, and then into a client, and move them through the process, and then service that client effectively. So, that's been a little bit of a story of how we worked. And again, we are applying and looking at this through the lens of real estate transactional practice, an estate planning practice, business and business entity formation practice, as well as probate, owners associations, in some related practice areas. So that's a little bit of background of how we got from there to here. And then, Ben, unless you have any other questions or want me to address anything else on that part of it, I'm happy to.
I think, I really appreciate that background. I think it's very applicable for a lot of different businesses. You come in with a certain understanding of what you're going to use the system for, and then it just kind of grows, and you adapt, and you realize, hey, even though we may be like many other businesses within this industry or this sector, there still is a level of customization that needs to happen for us to make it work with our business needs. So I think with that, I think we're ready to jump right in and see really where that customer journey can start with a lead generation form from you. So take it away if you're ready to go.
Yeah, you bet. And I think one other quick comment there is, as I'm sure lots of small businesses and firms, maybe participants on this webinar, found out that sometimes it can be kind of hard to draw a little bit of a line about where to stop with the customization, because I guess I'm a little bit of a tech geek in some ways, and so I'm happy to just keep working and fiddling with it. But ultimately, it needs to work for the business. It needs to work for your processes, and it needs to work for your use cases. And so it's always important to keep make sure that is mindful. So I'll go ahead and share now. Let's see.
Take it away.
All right. Okay, just one second here. So what we'll do is we're going to first look at I'm going to look at a lead generation tool we've been using. So can you see my screen, Ben?
Yep, looks good.
All right, so that's my partner, myself, up there in the corner. So just to give a quick bit of context, one of the services we offer are purchase and sale agreements for real estate transactions, real estate purchase and sale transactions. We do a fair amount of this work. This is sort of a high volume practice area for us, and we wanted to go out and work on our lead generation for these for sale by owner processes. So we basically came up with a lead gen page that we have used as part of digital marketing campaigns, Google and Facebook and some others. And so, leads who click on the campaign, they come to this particular page. This page here is all WordPress. And then what we did is we built a Titan form that basically sits it's basically embedded into the page. It's as an iframe. And what we wanted to do here is to reach out, find people who might have an interest in learning more about the for sale by owner process and what we offer. And so we felt that we'd come out with sort of that irresistible free offer, as I like to say, a bit of a lead magnet and to give them a checklist to work through, a free checklist, as well as a calculation of basically how much they would save if they work with us as compared to working with the real estate brokerage, and paying a commission. So the button, so this is basically the iframe is sitting in this window or this modal. And we want to have a little, obviously a little confirmation. We're not your lawyer, not giving you any kind of legal advice. And then we just kind of work through a series of questions. So we wanted, and again, this is all being driven out of Titan, and this is all going to be connected into Salesforce. I'm pulling up basically a pick list here that is coming out of Salesforce.
So that's an important point there that you mentioned. So these values are actually coming from Salesforce and not from Titan. So the
That's
idea
right.
there, just I want to explain to anyone who may be listening, is that, because even something like the pick list values here are synced with pick list values in Salesforce, if he changes one of those values, they realize, hey, we're missing out on leads from a certain stage or from a certain location, whatever it may be. They add a value in Salesforce, it's going to dynamically populate here without having to do anything. So that's I would say one of the big advantages of using a system that's completely integrated with Salesforce in real time, is that whatever changes take place in Salesforce, they can be reflected right away. And I think that's
right.
important.
And we created two custom objects to basically in Salesforce to handle this. We created a marketing lead object that will track every time somebody does something, and we'll create a marketing lead. So basically where they take a certain designated action. And then we also created essentially a marketing campaign custom object. The marketing campaign object is basically gathers and contains the information in these pick lists. So we're interacting those two together so that we understand for a particular marketing lead which marketing campaign is associated with that lead. In other words, what have we, what did we create? What version of that marketing campaign are we using? And that way, that helps us to track metrics and success metrics, and to see about, is this really performing where we want it to perform? So just kind of quickly walking through here, these are all the counties in our state, in Washington State. King County, grab that one. That's where Seattle's located, for those who don't know. We'll say that this is a condominium unit. Obviously, I'm driving logic in conditions, throughout the form. And what we do here is we just basically give people an accordion element that's built in Titan, and they can come through and they can basically get some free information from us. Not supposed to be legal advice. And they can come through here and they can see some more information. And this is, again, this information that you're seeing here is all customized. And we actually have a whole series of stacked accordion elements. And I'm only showing that particular accordion, which corresponds to a property, basically to a condominium unit, and to a selling stage where somebody's received a verbal offer. So we have, I think, four different seller statuses, and then we have different types of property. And I have a whole series of accordions that are basically customized to only show that information that we want to show based upon the variables above. So people come through here and then kind of just get an idea of what's there, of some ideas of what they need to, and some issues they need to think about with regards to selling the house. Come down here, and then we will give them a net seller proceeds. They just need to, again, go through a disclaimer. They'll come down and let's put in a price of $1.5 million. Let's see if I can, whoops, sorry. It's up here. I haven't worked with this in a little while. We'll go $1,250,000, submit. It'll do a calculation, and it'll show that.
Are those calculations happening here in the form, or are they happening in Salesforce? Where are those taking place?
So those are happening in the form. So I'm using the various elements in web to drive the calculations. I did this all myself, by the way. I mean, I admit I had to look at a couple of your videos for a couple of these items, but I basically figured it out and was able to do it. So it's all, and it all calculates correctly. comes down, and we thought it was going to be important to show prospects basically, hey, if you use us, we're going to charge you $2,549 for the package, and here are the rest of your anticipated costs, and it's only 1.91% of the sales price. We thought that was kind of a key number versus 7.71% with a brokerage commission, $75,000. So again,
I think that's great. I think
all dynamic.
for the end user to be able to just see that calculation in real time and the breakdown as you see it fit, without any extra numbers there. I think that's really important.
Yeah. And then the action at the bottom is, hey, if you want to schedule a free initial consultation with us, we've have this kind of the service we offer, a free 15-minute call. You want to discuss this further, you click, and then we just bring in basically a Calendly scheduling tool right in at the bottom, as that element. We have a whole bunch of different Calendly, different types of calendars and teams we use. And so this is basically showing the one for our real estate transactions team. Go and schedule time, talk with them, and then I won't go through the rest of it, but basically you can set up a time and get them on the phone and talk about our real estate purchase and sale package. So that's an example of a lead gen. Now, if I remember correctly, then I think at the time that we clicked the submit up here, I think I've already created that marketing lead record in Salesforce. And we're tracking essentially everything else that they're doing. So we know the sales price, we know which county, we know what type of property they have, we know, basically all of those features we're tracking now in Salesforce. So we can run reports, we can look at efficiency, what's happening with this particular marketing campaign.
Got it. So again, that's a place where, because the system is integrated with Salesforce and the integrations in real time, you're actually able to create records as you see fit in Salesforce and then work with those records throughout the process. So, you don't have to wait till someone finishes the entire process to be able to get that information in there, which I'm sure, leading to the next thing that I think you're going to show, which is the client intake and onboarding. I'm sure in that system also, you're not waiting till the very end to create all the records in Salesforce.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's, again, we love the power and the flexibility. That can be a bit of a two-edged sword, because sometimes it's hard to know when to stop, in terms of further customization and a further, coming up with sort of further bells and whistles. So I think that's one thing we've learned, Spencer and I've learned over the course of working with all this, is we need to make sure that we are, we have the minimum viable product. We're aiming towards that, and then we come in, get that launched, and then come in and add the bells and whistles later, as we decide to do so. So we're always iterating and always looking at, okay, well, how do we customize for our use case consistent with our resources? I mean, we don't have a separate development team that we use for our Titan development. It's just us. I guess I should say I have my 20-year-old son helping out as well. And that's about it. So, we don't have a big resource behind us. We don't have a team that we just say, hey, go and build this particular form. So it has to generate value immediately for us, for it to make, really for it to make sense for us. So, so let me go ahead and share, let's see, I think I need to probably stop sharing here. I'm going to share a different tab. So what I'll show now is, I showed the lead generation. So let me show what we call our new matter opportunity intake form. And Ben, this is a form that's just for our internal users only, just for our intake team. And so just a little context, our central object in Salesforce is called a matter. That's our primary object, custom object around which represents that client matter, the client work we're doing. Everything revolves around that. Everything's related to the matter. And so, but before a client becomes a client, before we create a matter, we create what's basically a predecessor record, which is a matter opportunity. So the matter opportunity we use as we are starting to work with somebody who may become a client of the firm. We don't want to create a matter yet because they're not a client yet, but we need to start gathering information, and we need to start basically, gathering the data, bringing the data in Salesforce for us to work with to make sure that, we've conducted, also we have the contact information, we've conducted appropriate conflict searches to resolve any potential conflicts for that client. And we have started to select what we think might be the appropriate service, legal service for the client, what would be the scope of work, who the assigned lawyer is going to be, the paralegal, legal assistant, how much the fee is going to be, what kind of advanced fee deposit, basically all of the information we need to get that matter set up. So by the time we go and create the matter, everything is in place, ready to go. And we use matter opportunity, that object every day. And one of the more important things we create off of it is using Titan document generation is our engagement agreement. So that's generated off of matter opportunity. But I'll just kind of show a little bit about what we do here. So we require intake staff to use this particular form to gather in the information. We have some requirements. Let's see, in order to work through this form. So I'll just do this here fairly quickly. I don't think I need that. We also use an SMS app in our organization. So we want to get confirmation about sending SMS messages. We then come down here and we'll select let's just go and select an estate planning practice area. This is, oops, get my keyboard correct here. We want to know how they found us, right? So we're going to go ahead and pick a Google search, and we want to know how they're basically the contact channel. So we want to know how did they reach out to us? Here they reached out to us by phone. They just called us. Go and click submit. So now what I've done at that point in the submit process, Ben, is I have created the matter opportunity record. So we have come in, we've gathered the contact information, first name, last name, the email. We put them into an account. We basically have created an account using last name, comma, first name. I have created the matter opportunity records. So I've created basically 3 records already off of that particular submit button. And then we just basically work them down as you kind of go through the process to say, okay, well, who do we want to go ahead and send the person to? And I have, different choices here. I can either send that person directly to a paralegal right away because we want them to be able to talk to somebody right away, or we can go ahead and schedule using a round robin scheduling process with a estate planning team or with a specific estate planning team member. And I go ahead and pick Candy, and then I'll pick up Candy's calendar here as compared to a round robin up here, where it's basically going to just round robin and go either or between the two estate planning paralegals. So we get them in. We want to empower our receptionists to be able to handle that call right away, and get Salesforce, start to get Salesforce working for us right away. So I'll go ahead and just send the call over to Candy. Get a submission process. And what we've done here is we've now sent an email over to Candy so that she can already get information about who's calling. So when she goes ahead and takes that call, she's ready to hit the ground running.
So Candy is not, the first step that she's doing is not logging into Salesforce. It's rather getting an email to alert her.
Yeah, and that email has a link to that matter opportunity record. She just needs to click on the link and she goes right into Salesforce and she can pick up that matter opportunity record. Our next iteration, it's in development right now for this form, is we'll have a second page. I mean, this is a multiple page form, but when Candy comes in, really what we want to do is we want to get her back into Titan rather than Salesforce. That'd be our preference. We want to get her into Titan so that she can basically work with a different page, same form, and that page has the key contact information, basically who's calling, who this person is, but it also has other select information we brought in from the matter opportunity, and it presents a script, basically an intake script. So it walks her through for that particular subject matter. What do we need to gather initially from this person? And it basically takes them through on a step-by-step basis so that we're asking the right questions every single time. We're a big believer in checklists and applying a checklist approach. So we want
the reason that you're doing this is just because it's a little bit more simple in Titan than it is in Salesforce for her to view this data, but the data is still coming from Salesforce. So it's all still reportable there. It's all still viewable there. but now you've created an external
Right.
form for her to view this data in and this
Yeah.
information outside of Salesforce. She doesn't have to get bogged down between jumping through different objects there. She
Yeah.
can view all the different information there. I
Yes.
really like this process a lot, by the way. I think
Yeah.
it's
Salesforce is the engine that drives everything. But there are some use cases and a lot of use cases where we feel Titan is a much better way of interfacing with the data in Salesforce. Not always. Sometimes it's just faster, more efficient just to work directly in the Salesforce in your browser. But there are a lot of applications where it feels just faster and more efficient to use Titan for that interface. We have to build the interface, you have to build the form, but once you get it built, then it just makes it easier, for instance, for staff to work with. So then we can basically, like for an estate planning potential client calls in, when our estate plan paralegal goes into Titan and into the particular the next phase of this process, then they will always see the same qualification questions. They'll see the same script, the same hey, welcome to our firm, really excited to talk with you today about estate planning. I'd like to ask you some initial questions so we can better serve you. That sort of a process. And it should, it'll be the same for every call. So as we want to handle more volume, as we grow our firm, handle more volume, for us, it's really important that we have the same processes apply to that intake process. And intake is, as you probably know, is hugely important for law firms, for every company, especially for law firms. So other, other sort of processes here, is essentially and I won't necessarily reload the entire form here, but if they want to go ahead and schedule a call for later, so get that potential client onto the appropriate staff member's calendar, then we have additional information that our receptionist will put in here, for instance, including in particular, if they're referred by somebody else, we want to know who that referral source is, so we can send them a thank you letter or a thank you acknowledgement. So we gather information about who referred that potential client to us. We do that within the same form. So we're using a single form to handle essentially the first interaction with Salesforce of the potential client. We're using it to start gathering the data at the right appropriate times. I don't want to overload any particular staff member, so we split it up a little bit between the receptionist and the paralegal or the person who's going to take it to the next step. But we're also gathering information to help validate our marketing efforts, and we're doing that by trying to understand how are they getting to us. So that's a little bit of our new matter opportunity intake. And you have any questions, Ben, on that, or does anyone else have any questions on that?
Yeah, I mean, the only things that I've seen so far in the questions over here is just, does this first off work with both Classic and Lightning Salesforce? The answer is, of course, yes. And another answer to one of the questions is, yes, this does work with all of these standard and custom objects, standard and custom fields in Salesforce. So we're working with whatever your data structure is in Salesforce that you've designed. And as Brett said, he actually initially started using Salesforce with a managed package, right? He purchased it. It is built out to some extent.
Yeah, it is a managed package. That is exactly right. Yep. So
and that doesn't pose any issue with us because of the way that we're integrated with Salesforce, where we can then read that metadata, those objects, those fields, and we can work with them dynamically throughout the process. So yeah, Brett, I believe the next thing we had talked about maybe was showing a little bit of the qualification payment part as well.
So, yeah, let me go ahead and bring that up here. I'm just kind of teeing up that particular page.
No problem. Yeah, and please, everyone, keep your questions coming. I really appreciate it. We would love to discuss online, offline, whatever it is, and help you figure out a solution for what you're looking to do.
Sure. So a little bit of context on this form. This is a page where and I'll just kind of show it now. We're still a little bit in development on this. I don't have this live to the public yet, but basically they're coming here from one of the pages at our website. We have this essential law program. Basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to drive sales of more fixed price or flat fee services, typically in the estate planning and the real estate area to our clients. So we have come up with this essential law, sort of a branding process of our more basic estate plans. This is not for more complex or tax-based estate planning. This is really for fairly simple plans. You come in and, you say, hey, you're an individual or married person. And as you can see, this is our testing page we're using. But basically, you come here to this qualification page. And this is kind of our initial, I'd call this like version 1.5. We're getting close to version 2.0 on this. But we need to, what we're trying to do is we're trying to enable a potential client to engage with us entirely online. That's the purpose here. And
no emails back and forth is what you're saying.
Right. So this is an entirely online, from lead to, more information on our webpage, to order the service, pay for the service, and then basically go right into client intake. So this is like the full spectrum from, really from, potential client, for, let's say, an estate planning matter, all the way through to completing their client intake process, where we have the entire client matter file built. It's all done by the time that they're done with this whole process. So we've created this flow, and we're using parts of this flow already in a little bit of a hybrid approach. So a lot of our inquiries come to us by telephone. So we're already using some of this in that process. We have some more iteration we want to do before we kind of launch the full package, but this will give a flavor of really kind of what we're trying to do. Now for any of the attendees here who are engaged in estate planning, they know, and I'll be the first to say here that, estate planning to a lot of people may seem kind of not very hard, especially for more basic plans. It's actually really, really difficult. And it takes a lot of work to make sure that we are providing the right kind of planning, but also it is incredibly complex as you work through and gather the client information in order to develop and build the estate plan and create documents. And we've been working on variations of this for a year and a half, really on our main intake form. A, because it's me doing most of the work. B, because it's really difficult. It's very complex and it requires a lot of customization. Anyway, so come in here, and so the person coming here and they can tell us, hey, married or not. If you're married, then we're going to start driving basically some logical questions, and we have either a married couple package or an individual package. And we need to know some additional basic information. And this is really a pretty basic, this is a basic radio button based Titan form. I mean, we're embedding this in our website. So you can kind of see this. And, as long as you essentially answer yes to everything, in other words, you're not giving us a negative response, which would, prevent you from using this essential law plan, go ahead and, submit. And then at this point here, what we're going to do is to basically create the account. And the account for us is just that. It's an account in Salesforce. So at this particular page, I haven't put anything into Salesforce yet. I haven't created any record yet, but we will on this particular page. And I'll just go in if we have time. Then maybe kind of tell me how we're doing with time here.
Yeah, I think a couple more minutes, and then I'd love to maybe just see the document generation in a few minutes before we wrap up.
Yeah.
But so this is interesting because I like what you did there in that you put a little qualification check that has no, it's got no reason to be in Salesforce, right? So you use part of the form just to qualify them, but it actually, was just a static form that was allowing them to get to the next step. Where they're then going to really interact with Salesforce and start saving records there,
right?
Which I think is really nice.
And I mean, my very, very strong recommendation for the viewers, the attendees here is, if you're thinking about building kind of this sort of a process, you really need to flow chart it out. I mean, we use Lucid Chart, and so I have a complete flow described and diagrammed. I mean, it's really, really important. So again, just kind of quickly here, we just have an online engagement agreement. So they can just come in and they can just acknowledge it. And at this point in time, also, I guess I should say that we have created the matters. We've actually created the account, the contact, and the matter. I'm taking, for instance, this confirmation about agreement, and I'm actually pushing that into Salesforce so that we know that they have agreed. So we have a record of their agreement with the engagement agreement. Then come in here, then go to payment. And we're using right now, we're using Gravity Legal as a vendor for our credit card payment processing system. And but we see and would like to start using the Stripe integration that Titan provides for some of this. It's just that we've been using Gravity Legal for a while. So I won't go any further with this. Basically, that's a little bit of an overflow of sort of that flow from get to our website, find out information about the service. Every one of our services, we're going to have to qualify you to be able to proceed through the payment process. We don't want to create a matter. We don't want to create an account or any of the records until we know that you've gone through a basic qualification process. For some services, it's going to be pretty easy. Some it's going to be more difficult. Estate planning is the most difficult, kind of in my view. But once that's done, then now we have everything running in Salesforce. We have those records being created. We'll have this. We'll generate we'll take the payment here. There'll be a payment record. We'll create that invoice in Salesforce. We'll show the payment associated with that invoice in Salesforce. And then once they're done, here in a different image, which is the first page of what they'll see when they get to this particular guided, what we call our guided questionnaire. So our guided questionnaires are intake. Let me just bring this up. Can you see that, Ben?
I'm right now I'm still seeing the payment.
Oh, sorry. Let me just I think I got a little ahead of myself there. Let me just kind of come in here. Okay, so once they're done with all that, they're taken basically to this page. And this is a secure page. It's protected by Smart V. And this is about a 20 primary page form. I have probably about 45 modals working in this particular form, which is, you can understand why it's taken a while to build it out. But basically, this is our complete full spectrum intake process for our clients. It's client facing. However, that being said, our staff can use this as well for telephone intake. So somebody calls in and says, hey, you know what, I'm just not comfortable using an online form. No problem. Our staff member will log into the matter. They'll open up the link that we've created right there in the matter so that they can go to the form and they can start taking, gathering the information and basically take it by telephone and work through the process. Or if somebody doesn't want to do that and they want to use a paper-based form, the old-fashioned way, like most lawyers do it in estate planning, that's fine. Go ahead and fill out the form. Our staff will take their information off of the form and they're going to use this particular online form because we need to get everything into Salesforce. And once we have everything in Salesforce, now we can start generating documents. And we can start, obviously working with additional information. I'll just show a couple other, just maybe 2 or 3 other quick screenshots from this particular form. It's easier to do it in screenshots rather than working through the form just because of the complexity of the form. So give me just a second here. I'll show another screenshot or two. We certainly do give, we walk people through, for instance, instructions. We want them to again, agree to certain things, that they understand what we're doing. They need to, and everything's driven off, you're either going forward or you're going back, or you can sign out and save progress in the form, but we're not going to let you go next. For instance, if you did not click all these buttons here and you try to click the go next button, you'll get a little modal message saying, hey, please confirm, before you proceed. So we want to make sure that the clients are going through the experience exactly the way we want them to go through the experience and not any other way. So let me just kind of go back here. I'll just show another screenshot or two. But the nice thing as well here is that we can, we can really make this feel nice.
Wow, this looks great, Brett.
we want to walk them through. We want to give them an idea. Hey,
Yeah.
here's, here's what you're going to see. Here's what to expect. We don't want to surprise people. We want them to have a nice experience, as nice as possibly can be, while you're giving us a whole bunch of information. Okay, and let me just go grab another screenshot here. Hold on just a second. All right. Let me just stop the sharing here, and then we'll come back. Okay, let's find page 4. All right. So this is an example of a typical page in this particular form. Again, I mean, it looks just like kind of standard data gathering intake form, but we have some elements I just kind of want to briefly show. First of all, we have what we call guidance center at the top, and our guidance center are, these accordion elements. We give an overview of what you're doing on the page. We have FAQs for each of our pages. We will bring in customized videos produced by the lawyers here that explain and walk through the various concepts. And then we have a client support elements of, you need to, client needs to call us, or do you need to talk to your staff, they can do that. And basically, we have sort of the middle of the page is going to be, what are we gathering? Some pages have tables. A number of our pages have tables because we're gathering what could be multiple pieces of data that need to go in the table. They can work with the data in the table. They can edit names, remove, and so forth. And then we always, for every page, we have questions and comments that they can leave. All this is being pushed in Salesforce. The questions are being pushed in Salesforce. We have a save progress in every page so that they can go ahead and save it, and all that data is stored, and they can sign out and be taken to a login page, all working with Smart V. Go next buttons are all conditioned so that they're not going to allow the person to go forward until they've done what we need them to do on each particular page. And then all of the guidance center information is driven out of a custom object in Salesforce. So we have a object we just created for that, so that it is all variable depending upon, are they married or unmarried? Is this a married couple package, or is this an individual package? And so those are, we take that data and the variables, we're loading that in as global variables when they first enter in. So we're able to drive the right kind of customized help content for them, including videos. So that's a little bit of an overview. And then I'll just kind of talk about, in fact, maybe I'll see what we're just talking here. I'll just grab maybe one more page with a table on it, just so we can kind of see how that works. Let's see here. But basically, yeah, I'll show let me just show this just one last page here. So let's go find page 8.
Brett, I have to say I'm absolutely impressed. I think that the way that the forms look, and I can imagine how they feel for the actual person filling them out, it's really clean. It matches your branding that you're looking to go for. It's all very consistent.
Yeah.
Everything seems like it was made by you in the best sense of the word, and really is for your business, rather than something that you just kind of installed from some external source. It feels like, hey, these are, this is what we're looking to accomplish. This is our process. And now we're going to hold your hand through it, through something we created,
Right,
which I think
right.
is really key here.
Yeah, so we wanted to make sure, that's a great point. We want to make sure, bring in our branding. We want it all be consistent color palettes. We really don't want to just send somebody to an online process and kind of abandon them. And that's why we came up with Guidance Center. And so we're developing the same concept, this guided questionnaire concept, for other practice areas, for real estate, for probate, and so forth. It'll all be the same. And this is all modular. And we use Titan Web here. And that's the beauty of it. So we can just basically, once we build this, we copy it, and we're already building out our purchase and sale package, guided questionnaire, be basically the very same look and feel. So we can start iterating and building very quickly. From a document generation standpoint, I'll just tell you a little bit about what we're doing. And so, for instance, in our estate planning, we have obviously multiple documents, but one of the first documents we want to generate is going to be for the lawyer to use as part of the initial consultation, part of that meeting with the client that happens after they finish this guided questionnaire. And at the end of this guided questionnaire, they get sent to a Calendly page to schedule their consultation with the lawyer. So that's part of every one of our packages. We're not selling forms, we're selling, legal services. And for that, we need to have the lawyer involved and lawyer providing guidance and advice, make sure we're doing the right thing for our client. And so part of that is one of the first documents we generate using Titan is an agenda for the meeting for the lawyer. It's going to gather information out of the matter, out of Salesforce. It's going to present a customized agenda. It'll include all the questions on every page they may have left. And it'll include some other sort of custom content to help, basically guide the lawyer. And before that call, we'll also use Titan and Salesforce to send out a customized agenda to the client. So the client knows what we're going to cover in the call. So we're basically, we're organized and we're helpful and we're efficient because we're charging a flat fee.
Right.
And we can't spend a whole lot of time, but we want to make that really high quality time. That's our goal. We really want the client to come away feeling really positive that they got a lot of value. Obviously, and then Titan is used to generate all of the estate planning documents. The will, the powers of attorney, a healthcare directive, a whole bunch of other ancillary documents for the client. And it's all customized and is essentially a one-click. And you generate, in fact, our plan, Ben, is actually to have a menu for the staff person to basically go in, a menu in Titan, and just click the different documents they want to go ahead and generate, hit the generate button, and we will have the documents ready to go. So for us, it's how we need to build it, we feel, in order to provide a seamless and helpful client experience, but also to make our staff really efficient. I mean, that's a driver at the end of the day. It's productivity. Productivity, tempered and measured by, client satisfaction. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Brett, really appreciate everything you've showed us today. And it's a pleasure to see, what you've been able to do with Titan, and really give us an understanding of what different ways you can extend it. And
Sure.
when the creativity starts going, how you can take it in different directions and also just improve efficiency. Because as you said, your business, the way that it works is, oftentimes, you're taking a flat fee. You got to make sure everything's efficient because every second counts for every staff member.
It does. Yeah.
I think at this point, I'm probably going to answer the questions, some of the questions offline that we haven't answered, but I have one question for you, and that's, who designs your forms for the most part? How have you handled that design aspect that we focused on a little bit here?
So we have an internal marketing manager who basically has come up with the color palettes and some of our branding standards, but basically I've designed the forms myself. I mean, we're my partner, but I'm kind of been the user experience, user interface person. To just come up with these concepts, hopefully people find value in them. But yeah, it's just been internally. So.
And yeah, because I mean, just from my perspective, as someone who's not a designer myself, and doesn't have any experience in graphic design, I think that the forms, everything you showed today, had a very nice look to it. It did not sacrifice the design, or sacrifice design for the functionality of what you're looking to accomplish there, which is something that sometimes does happen. And it sounds like you also don't have a background in graphic design or anything like that, but you do have a marketing manager who's able to empower you a little bit in terms of choosing the colors. And now that you have that down to some sort of science, it looks like you have a pretty good equation in effort there.
Now you can just clone each page and you're ready to go. I mean, we really want to build it once and then clone as much as we possibly can. I mean, there's only so much time I could put into this, and and we're really picky on design and the client experience. Probably too picky, to be honest with you. We should have been probably further along, but we just want to make sure it feels good, feels right, it's helpful, it's not confusing. Because I know at the end of the day, if we put out something that's confusing to clients, we'll just get inundated with calls and help requests and so forth. We want to try to reduce that. So, and I'm happy to talk with if anyone else in the webinar wants to chat with me offline as well. I'm happy to have those conversations as well. So.
Brett, much appreciated. Thank you so much.
you
And
bet.
hopefully, you know, in a year's time, we'll have even more things to talk about and more things to
Yeah,
show. So I appreciate
absolutely.
it. And I hope that
Okay.
this experience also brings out some other people from the woodworker who say, hey, I want to show also what, you know, what we've done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that would, and we welcome that opportunity as well. So Brett, thanks a
Sounds
lot.
good.
Thanks to you and
Yeah.
your firm, and looking forward
You
to
bet.
a long and a prosperous relationship. Thanks
There
a
we
lot.
go. Okay.
Take
Thank
care.
you. Thanks, Ben. Yeah.